Hey, Happy New Year, everybody. I hope you're doing well. For those of you all who may not know me, I'm Darius Wallace. I'm an actor, speaker, and coach. Interestingly enough, as I say that, I think this year it'll be more actor because of the way things are going as far as bookings, mainly my one-person show, but I'm sure I'll be doing some television and film this year too. But the way time is happening for me, I don't think I'm going to have as much time doing one-on-one coaching as I used to. So I am going to develop a online course. I think that I'm hoping to be fun, interactive, and for those of you who are interested to learn how to communicate better, tell stronger stories, maybe that'll be out there for you. But I'm going to be doing more storytelling. But anyway, I just wanted to say, hey, Happy New Year, and have a great 2024 this year. Have a prosperous one, have a healthy one, have a joyous one, a loving one, and have an adventurous one. Of course, if you have a moment and you want to have coffee with me, please go get you some coffee. This is actually a mixture of espresso and cinnamon hazelnut flavor. So yeah, it's good. So, starting off a new year, makes me think about what can be done differently this year than last year. I think one of the cancers or one of the things that kind of interrupts our lives is worrying about what people think, right? Sometimes we want to live to impress others. That's natural, you know what I mean? Especially if you're a performer, right? Sometimes we want permission from others because we feel if we can get their permission, then it's okay. And so we live into that quite naturally because, when people think well of you, doors could open, all kinds of great things could happen. But the reality is that that's not going to be the case all the time. And I think about who I am as an actor and the things we face as an actor when it comes down to what people think, right? So I was in a show, somebody called Chris Davis. He's a reviewer and he's a really great guy. And I haven't talked to him in a long time, but he's a friend of mine. I don't know if he's still reviewing or not. But anyway, we actors, we have to deal with what people think. And sometimes what people think is public. And, and it comes in the form of a review, right? I've been fortunate to get, a lot of great reviews, but it is just one person's opinion. Always remember that. But, I remember one time in particular where I was in a show. Oh my God, long time ago. I think it was 2008. Wow, it seems like ages ago. Well, I might have been miscast. I didn't do too well. All my rehearsing was, and it felt like there was just this atmosphere of just people talking about me, talking behind my back, making fun of me. It was one of the worst experiences as an actor, to be honest. And you know what? I just don't think it was a difficult role for me at the time. It was a very difficult moment. It was tough. It was tough. Well, the review didn't help. So I just remember reading the review, and what's exciting is when you read the review and it focuses on you, and it's great. You know what I mean? Because it's focused on you in that way, and you're the standout. It's another thing when the review is focused on you and is bad. I'm not talking about you can kind of, rationalize it or figure out to change the narrative. No. y'all are probably out there wondering, well, what review is this? Anyway, it was a heavily critical review. Hey, there's some people watching. How y'all doing? How y'all doing, cousin? Arthur Muhammad. Hey, brother. Anthony Merriweather, and a preacher. Happy New Year. Happy New Year. So, anyway, the review was crushing, but guess what? I knew that it was true. And sometimes when it comes down to what people think, or let's go even deeper, when you're worried about what people are saying about you, there's three types of that. There's people are telling you to your face, which is the best in some ways, I think. People talking about you behind your back, or you're imagining people saying things that they might not be saying, right? Because you're misinterpreting facial expressions, or they didn't answer my text back, they're not returning my calls. You start to develop all these different stories, right? So this was one where, I was able to, I was going to handle that review one or two ways. I was either going to be crushed as an actor, or I was going to take a look at it and just say, okay, I know that it was true. What can I do to get better? It was a Midsummer Night's Dream. The first time I did it with Tennessee Shakespeare back in 2008, I played one of the mechanicals and another role. I can't think of the name of the role. It didn't go well. I decided in that moment to learn from it. There was something about the criticism that gave me an opportunity to decide on if I were going to learn from it. And I decided to find a way to learn from it. And I actually called Chris Davis up. We sat down for coffee and we talked about it, and it was relieving to actually hear him speak on what he saw. And so it made me work harder as an actor. And I guess, I don't know, years later, I was cast back in the show as the lead, Oberon, and got a great review. Still just one person's opinion, though. So sometimes people are talking about you because they're really saying something that you can learn from and grow from. Some people, they'll say things to you in a very sideways kind of way where they're really trying to put you down. Well, that's toxic. Be careful of those types of people in your life. You don't need that. You really, really don't. The other is when people are talking about you behind your back and that that's true. People are spreading rumors. They're spreading the gossip about you instead of the gospel about you, right? And that could be demoralizing also when people are talking about you behind your back. So how do you deal with that? Well, here's one thing for sure. You can't control what people are saying behind your back. You can't control it. There's this famous story of Miles Davis. He's a jazz musician. If you don't know, I'd be surprised if you don't know who Miles Davis is, but he was a phenomenal genius jazz musician. And Herbie Hancock, who also is a phenomenal genius jazz musician, was a very young man. And when he was playing with Miles Davis, and they were on the stage, and Miles Davis had changed his style of playing. And the audience, they were booing and they were even throwing things on the stage. And Herbie Hancock said, Miles, this is not working. They're throwing things at us. They're booing us. And Miles Davis says, let them have their vibe out there, but we're going to have our vibe up here. When people are talking about you behind your back, that's their vibe. Let them have their vibe. That's them out there. But you deal with your own vibe right here and know that no matter what people are saying, right, or no matter where your difficulties may be, you have the power, one step at a time, one day at a time, to always be getting better. If you have a fixed mindset where you think you're just always supposed to be a certain way without any kind of development, well, that's being deceptive against yourself. But if you make a decision, right, to take moments to improve yourself, self-improvement, you're only going to get better and better at whatever you want to do, be, or have every day of your life. And so one way to insulate yourself against whatever gossip may be out there or what people are saying about you, you can overcome that by developing yourself, personally developing yourself on a regular basis. Then there's also people that you think are talking about you, and they're not. And so then you have to ask yourself, well, what is it? How am I feeling about myself? And what stories am I telling myself on a regular basis that's causing me to feel this way, where I'm imagining that people potentially or possibly are thinking a certain way about me? One of the things that can help you overcome that is when you find yourself full of anxiety or stress about what people are thinking about you or what have you, it's a good moment in time to figure out what you can do to pull yourself out of yourself. You might be thinking too much about yourself, where you're wishing people would reach out to you. Well, have you reached out to someone else? Or you're hoping people are thinking well of you? Or have you given people reason enough, friends, family, reason enough to think well of you? So, the idea is to come out of yourself and do something of service for other people. Can take you out of that mindset and remind you of yourself, that you really are a beautiful, special, talented, gifted person that is a present to the world, and that you have a lot to offer. There have been many people throughout time that have had to deal, many great people throughout time that have had to deal with what people thought about them. Who's heard of the greatest of all time, my hero, Muhammad Ali? Now we know him as the people's champ, right? The greatest of all time, right? But what we don't know is when he first came out, people hated him. Not only was he boisterous with how he spoke, but he was also black, and he was a black Muslim at that. So he was not at that time the people's champion. Even though he was winning, he was always being booed. Imagine that. But it was the way he thought of himself and the confidence and belief that he had in himself. And then, he was Muslim, so his religion, that gave him the strength to overcome all of what people were saying about him, what the papers were saying about him. And he continued on throughout the course of time. And because of his generosity, because of his belief in himself, because of his compassion and empathy, even for his opponents, because of his willingness to stand up against the Vietnam War back during that time, when he made a perfect point, of the reasons why he didn't want to go to fight. But he came back and he became champion again. And he continued to do a lot of things for a lot of people all over the world. And so we don't remember Muhammad Ali for the things we may have disagreed with him on. We really remember him for his heart, his generosity, and him being a champion. Another champion that went through a period of time of being hated by the world. There's another champion, ferocious, amazing in the ring. And one day, he decided to bite someone's ear off. I think you know who I'm talking about. Mike Tyson. And that was a period of time when, for a decade or more, where he was one of the most hated champions. Well, look at him now. In the midst of all of that, Mike Tyson continued to do things to work on himself on a regular basis. And he's remarried. He was in massive debt with the IRS. He's now, successful and a multi-millionaire. And we now are in love with the champ. Well, coming back to you, yeah, there may be some people that are talking behind your back, right? There might be some people who you think are talking about you and they're not. There might be some people who are coming right to you. And if they're sincere, that's a friend. That's someone who loves you. That's telling you something that gives you the opportunity to change, to transform. Whatever the case may be, remember this. It's not what people think about you. It's what you think about yourself. And even more importantly, it's what God thinks of you. It's what God says about you. And we know what God has said about you, not just from what's written in letters, but from how you're created, miraculously and wonderfully made. And that whatever you place, once again, in your imagination, in your mind, and in your heart, you can manifest in your life. So don't worry. Don't let this be a year of worrying about what people think, worried about what people are speaking of you. What you can do also is practice speaking well of others. Practice spreading gospel of others and not gossip. Practice affirming and lifting people up. And in finding those things that can affirm you. For me, it's scriptures. For me, it's meditation, contemplation, prayer. I'm certainly far from perfect. But as a human being and as an actor, I realize that I've got a lot to work on. And that whether the review is good or not, whether the people love it or not, I'm going to always have an opportunity to get better. I'm going to always have an opportunity to rehearse. As a human being, I'm going to always have an opportunity to be a better father, to be a better friend, to be a better actor, to be better in just about everything that I want to be better in. So, have a phenomenal year. Have some phenomenal coffee. And guess what? I look forward to seeing you all in the audience somewhere around the country where I'm going to be. And if you're watching this at any given time and I'm out there and you see me, please come up to me. I want to know who you are. And for all of you all who are watching, peace, blessings, have a wonderful year. And hey, we're going to chop it up again.